Welcome to the Gainz, where we talk about all things health and fitness. I'm your host, Leah Messenger. Let's get into it. Hey guys, it's Leah, and today we have a very special guest, or two very special guests. We have Hannah Eden, and we have our CEO, Brian Ellis, with us today. So Hannah, I'm so excited to have you on. Kind of tell me a little bit about your origin story and how you got into fitness and how you got to kind of where you are today.
For sure, man. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. What's up, Brian? Hi, Leah. So origin and kind of background. So fitness was definitely not something that I grew up doing. I think that surprises a lot of people. I fell into CrossFit by accident, I guess. I wasn't trying to get fit. I had a really good friend that invested into a CrossFit gym. And at that time, I was in a totally different lifestyle. I was in the nightlife and bartending and working in nightclubs and stuff like that. So he convinced me to try out a class, and I did. And like the rest is history, man.
That's crazy. And where are you from?
England originally.
And then when did you come to the US?
When I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, 2006.
Is that when you started partying heavy? 16?
No. So I was a good girl because where I moved to was this tiny little town. And I didn't really do many bad things. I was just pissed that I was not in England.
Oh,
so
really?
I did that for 2 years. And then from Massachusetts, which is where I moved to, I went all the way to Florida. And that's where I fell into that dark hole.
I bet. So you kind of were uprooted from your entire life in England and then came to the US. Did your family have to move for work, or why did you guys come over?
Yeah. So my dad had a job transfer, and I wasn't in the best place in England. So it was probably like a blessing in disguise for my parents to have an opportunity to kind of get out. I was a pretty rebellious kid. Didn't really experiment with substances until Florida. I was just a pretty rebellious kid, but fitness changed that entirely, you know?
Yeah, it completely changes your like mindset and your lifestyle, and it can like completely flip your world upside down, but in like the best way.
Yeah, for sure. And just to kind of trickle on as to what happened and how I got into fitness is I was really good at it. And it was probably one of the first things in my life up until that point that I was getting positive reactions and responses from people rather than negative. And that was a very unusual feeling for me. So based on that little bit of history I've told you about, I think that's why I fell so hard for fitness. You know, it's like receiving positive feedback for certain things that I was doing rather than shitty negative feedback. So I like that feeling. And so I became a pretty avid CrossFit athlete. And that was my original goal, was to go to the CrossFit Games, which is hilarious to think about now. You know, there's no way I would even stand a freaking chance, but I got really fit. I got really strong from me pretty quickly and had this massive transformation in a short period of time. But unfortunately, suffered a back injury. Mm-hmm. But throughout that whole process, I was trying to learn how to become a coach and got my CrossFit level 1. And so I was coaching CrossFit at the same time as pursuing an athletic career. Mm-hmm. And kind of dived in head first. And when the back thing happened, it was around the same time that a couple other things had happened. That actually the same friend that introduced me to CrossFit for the first time told me to enter into this contest for Reebok 1. And that's a whole other freaking story there, but I could go on and on, but it's just like one thing led to another that led to another. And I think just the initial feeling of what I got through fitness was something that I didn't want to let go of.
It really like can help your mental health, and you get that almost kind of like high from like doing good. And like, I know like how I am, like once I start winning things or once I start doing really well at something, I just want to keep doing it. And I think that's how it is for a lot of people. It's like, oh, I'm actually good at this. I want to continue doing it. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And there's like a therapy gets you to this stage in life, I guess. But like, I always wonder why I was such a shithead as a child. Like I didn't get it because I had a beautiful family. My parents are really supportive. My parents are madly in love. I had a great home life. You know, it was not really an external factor that I was aware of as to why I was just trying to be a total dickhead, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And so I look at it now and I'm like, I think that I was really weak. And that's what I was trying to do, is like show this hard exterior through being angry and just like not the nicest person ever.
Mhm.
And then when I found fitness, it was like I initially built strength externally to try and create like this, I don't know, shield of armor maybe from the rest of the world. And that through the journey of my fitness career, I guess, things have changed a lot. And now it's for a very different reason. But when I initially got into CrossFit, I feel like I was building that external strength, which is why I became so obsessed with it for reasons that were more than just trying to be a good athlete. You know, I was trying to build like this strong exterior that wasn't being mean to people, but it was definitely intimidating, I guess, at some point when I was jacked. So it was a different version. Right now, I am nowhere near as jacked as I used to be, but it's interesting how things happen through life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you can build, you know, strength and then become more empowered, and then you don't feel like you have to put up that wall anymore.
Exactly. And being vulnerable is like a massive strength, you know? You don't have to be tough.
You have to be tough and really courageous to be vulnerable.
Exactly. I like that.
Admirable. Did you have any role models in CrossFit that you really wanted to be like first started?
Man, and it's really funny because like our friend circles now cross over, but I was really obsessed with CrossFit whenever it was the days of like Brooke Entz, Camille, who else? Lauren Brooks. Like it was a very long time ago, so it was a different realm of women. And so it was before all of the girls that are on now. So that was really cool. And I think that I did definitely look up and be like, these Icelandic chicks are nuts. Katrin is so strong, and Annie as well. And I remember thinking like, that's incredible that these women are as strong as they are. So I guess they would be the players that I looked up to for sure.
Yeah, it's wild. They have crazy genetics too, I think, that plays into
Man,
it.
Those Vikings.
I'm a massive believer. I'm a massive believer in like farm life, or if you grow up in hard environment, that you become a fucking hard ass motherfucker, but in a good way, you know? You embrace the tough stuff. So that's cool.
It's crazy.
Hospitality industry and farm. Like I worked on a farm and in the hospitality industry. And like I know other people that are so successful in their world, like Tommy Rivers, same thing. He grew up on a farm and also was in the hospitality industry. And I think that it gives you these skill sets that make you tough and good at being a people person, you know? So they're massive things that help through life.
Exactly. Working in the hospitality industry, you have to grow some thick skin. People are not always going to be nice, which is like
no.
Hannah, were you both bartender and server when you were in hospitality, or just bartender?
Server and bartender. So I worked in like high-end restaurants, but I was not the best server, man. I'm not gonna lie. But I was fast behind a bar, so I was too kind, and I'd like always try and get shit comped to try, because I never want to be that person to say no to a customer, you know. But yeah, I definitely did better at bartending.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Were you doing that during your party phase?
Yeah, it was.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, burning the candle on both ends.
Yeah,
because you know, in the nightlife you work till like 3 to 5 in the morning. I'm in South Florida. It's freaking crazy. And then you're like, I want a night out too. So then you go out after work, and then you're out till God knows what time the next day. So it's like this, and then you sleep all day, and it's like this horrible cycle that just continues on and on and on and on.
Sounds like lots of fast food.
Yeah, or just not eating.
Yeah,
just too busy.
Over.
Yeah,
exactly. Dominoes on speed dial and just figured it out, you know.
Yeah, I bet that's so funny. And you gotta do hair of the dog.
Yeah. Oh God.
You
can pay me now. I don't think you could pay me enough money to pull an all-nighter that I used to think was fun, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything changes, and like fitness changes you too. How does your mindset changed since you started fitness?
Oh, that's such a good question. Everything changed ever since I started fitness. And I think that this new mindset was born inside the gym. And then I just built a lot of confidence to try and put that strength or confidence into other aspects of my life. Then I started to take like more risks, you know. I started to do really hard things every day inside the gym, so that doing quote unquote hard things that are not necessarily physical outside of the gym just become a challenge. So like the business side of life that started all after fitness.
Mhm.
Trying to help people that started through fitness as well. And I recognize that, or maybe I felt, which is also a stage in life, but I felt guilt for a long time after I had found fitness. And I was like, man, because I wasn't the nicest person growing up. I felt like I'd done a lot of wrong in the world and I needed to kind of reverse the wrong and do more right.
Yeah.
Now I feel like this is just what I want to do and my purpose. But it's cool what you're able to do. And I think your mindset is the only thing that differs each person, you know?
100%. What's your why? What would you say like your why is right now for doing fitness in general?
Fitness on the physical side or pursuing it as like a career?
I would say on the physical and mental side, like for yourself, not as a career.
Yeah, my why is mental health. Like I need this. I
Mhm.
know who I am without it. And I mentioned it briefly throughout this call, you know, like I have a dark streak and it's been there since I was born. I think understanding who you are and knowing how to tame certain aspects and parts of yourself are critical to try and get the most out of life. And I am who I am. That's not going to change. But I can change certain characteristics about who I am.
Mhm.
And that's almost like a workout now too. So the fitness side of things is where I go to work on myself on a personal level. And that can look very different, you know. And I always set these challenges for myself, which is what I think keeps me sharp. But Iceland being one of those challenges, like I was crazy when I was training for that. I was do it in silence and in the dark, and it's like a state of meditation, you know, a flow state, whatever you want to call that. But I think the definition is being fixated on one thing and being so focused, hyper focused on this one thing and nothing else.
Mhm.
And fitness does that for me. And my brain moves pretty fast and is all over the place for a lot of the other times of the day. So that time in the gym is massive
It's like
towards
therapy time.
mental health.
Time.
Yeah, for sure.
Hannah, do you plan on doing anything as crazy as Iceland again?
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
I need to have a child first because I keep setting these goals and it's delaying us replicating people. And
Yeah.
I almost did it going into this year. I wanted to do like this crazy 8,000-mile bike ride. And I was like, wait a second, it's going to take X amount of years to train. You know, I trained for, I think, 10 months last time. But once I trained, did the event and was recovering, it took a good solid like 18 months out of my life, you know? So
can you mention like what Iceland was in case, you know, people listening don't know?
yeah, for sure. Pretty sad story, but turned into something that we did, which was pretty fucking awesome, to be honest. But one of our really good friends, Jessica Boswell, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer when she was pregnant, extremely pregnant, 6 months pregnant with Braden, her baby boy. And unfortunately, Jess didn't survive, but Braden did. And whenever Jess was alive, I had told her, because she was a goal-oriented person, it was kind of a joke inside the hospital room to give her something visual to hold on to and to try and fight for. And it was that I was going to run around Iceland, the whole country, and bike and run this whole thing for her, and that she would be at the end. So we like made pictures and gave her these things because things were not great. And unfortunately, she passed away before the date even came close. So then I did it. It became extremely real. And I trained for a while. I trained for like 10 months, like I said. And I freaking did it, man. We did 826.8 miles in the original goal was 8 days, but we did it in 9 days. And yeah, we did the whole ring road of Iceland.
That's wild.
Yeah. So we did, and we'd raised a lot of money. We partnered up with Nordic Track and iFit. All of the community, like the company, donated $1 per every mile that was ran. Partnered up with the Huntsman Cancer Institute in Salt Lake City and donated like 70 grand. Like it was a really, really massive event. But I didn't really publicize it much because it was such a hard moment in life.
Yeah.
And whenever Jess died, like we initially there was going to be like a whole massive production and like a doctor and a freaking, what are they called, mechanic for my bike, and like all these, my coach was going to be there. I was like, Paolo, you're not, my husband, like, you can't come. I'm soft when I'm with you. I need to be like this tough motherfucker, like for this experience. And then everything changed whenever Jess passed away. And I was like, you know what? I don't want anyone there. Like, I need just my family. So her husband, my husband, Megan, who you guys are probably familiar with, I know Brian is, and Courtney, who was Jess's niece. We did it together, and we did it in an RV. They followed me at like 10 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour. I was biking, and they let me go when I was running, and I just freaking did it. We just inched away at it. It was wild.
I remember Paulo telling me when we were in Montana, I don't know if you were there, but he was saying you thought it was hard on her, like just running. And he was like, seeing my wife go through that, he was like, that's one of the hardest things I've ever seen. Like having to see that, like her hurting, but like not being able to help her, you know? So like, I felt him right there too.
And that was definitely a conversation, you know, before we went, because you are vulnerable around the people that you love. And, you know, I even notice this now, like I have a different approach towards pain when I'm in the gym or in discomfort, right? But whenever I'm in the comfort of my home with my husband, like I'm a totally different person. And so I think that that's important to be able to stay in the right state of mind. So before we went, I'm like, you know, I can't be babied. No one can baby me. Don't ask me about pain. We're not going to talk about pain out loud. We're only going to keep things positive, because when you say like, hey, you're right, then I'm like, no, am I all right? Should I not be all right? And so I wanted to stay in this very different state of mind than being a regular human. And so we had ground rules set up before we went that everyone kind of had to follow while we're in the RV very intimately for that long.
Yeah, for sure.
How did your body respond to that? Like, how was the recovery process after that?
The recovery process was, I walked home, you know, I wasn't in a wheelchair. I managed to get on a plane. I went out, we sang karaoke that night after I was done. Like, I walked away, I was okay. I began on a fucking stress fracture, which is like the worst thing ever. So I ended up having to bike more than I ran and check my ego by day 4, you know, and cycled majority and just ran like a mile to 20 miles a day rather than trying to do like 30 or 40 crazy lengths. And but afterwards I had issues with like stability. I felt like my gait was slightly changed, because think about how far and how long that is of repetitive movement and the same exact motion every time, because I had my bike affixed to this position that I needed to be in. And then afterwards it was just like not good. So I had some issues with my hips and definitely with balance, but I worked on that for a while. And then I had to gain a lot of strength. I lost a lot of muscle. I lost a lot of weight, even though I was eating like disgusting amounts of food a day. But it took a while, probably say like a year, to really feel like quote unquote normal again, whatever that means. But it exposed weaknesses too. So I feel like I almost like on the long run recovered healthier than I began. So focused on stuff.
Yeah.
Would you say it exposed weaknesses just physically or like mentally too?
Oh my gosh, man. I went obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I lost my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Okay, like I went a little crazy. And so from day 4 to day 9, from day 1 to day 4, like I was such a brat. I was finding every excuse in the world to blame everyone else for my lack of motivation or my energy being low. And so I was being really mean, and not maybe to anyone that could feel it, but I could feel it myself. It was like I was being very irritable. And so this happened on day 4, which is a horrible story, and it's really crazy. It's really funny now. But I had created these routes, then these splits for every day. So I had on Strava, which is still there now. If anyone's listening and want to go try it in Iceland, I still got all the routes. You can do it. But so they had to press start, and we had to follow this line until I got to the red dot, right? So I had my phone on my bike, on my handlebars, and then everyone else was in the RV and they had the phone with the directions too. Most of the time I was in front, but sometimes they'd have to overtake, so they needed to know where they're going. And I was in the zone. I was having such a good day. We were flying by, and all of a sudden I looked down and I recognized that we'd gone 12 miles in the wrong direction. And 12 miles added onto this trip is like every second was like, ah! Yeah. So I lost my shit and I had a meltdown, and I blamed everyone. I'm like, what the fuck? You had one job to do, you know, and had like this massive meltdown, crying. It was ridiculous. And then I had like a pep talk, because I was almost embarrassed at my reaction. I was exhausted, but so was everyone else. You know, I decided to do this. No one forced me to do this. This was my choice to do it. And I had a massive attitude shift, because, you know, it's not their fault. The phone was just it was on my handlebars. I was in front of them. It's my fault. You know, this is my mission, my journey. This is what I wanted to do. I knew where I was going. I made these routes. So it was a very big change. I actually have like this recording where I film myself and I'm talking to myself and I'm like going a little, but all I'm saying is like, stop blaming everyone else for everything going wrong in your life. Like, stop playing a victim. And then it's like, wow, okay, that message right there is massive. And then I switched entirely and was very, very at peace with, if I didn't finish, who gave a shit? Check your ego. I'd rather do what I can to try and be honest and have integrity than skip certain parts or feel this pressure of like having to finish what I said I was going to do that day. And then it was a very enjoyable experience after that. And it was massive, you know? And then I was like finding these analogies with nature. Like I don't know, this is maybe silly, but ignorance is bliss. I didn't look at the terrain for the incline or decline. And I definitely didn't want to know about the winds because a lot of the winds were changing at all times. So you couldn't choose what direction to go in and have the right type of wind. And sometimes I had like 12 miles per hour winds pushing me backwards. And I'm like trying to grind through it. And the hills would be so high. And that's a lot of the times that Paolo is probably referring to. Like, they were really rough on the body and rough on your brain because it was miles of like this slight incline. And all you want to do is it burns every single step of the way. So I'm like, man, it sucks when it goes up, right? It is really hard, but then it's going to go back down again. It's going to become okay. And then I just flipped that analogy and was like, that's just like life, man. Like it's never going to stop, right? It's going to go up, but then it's going to go down. But enjoy it while it goes down because it's going to go up again. And it's like, just embrace the journey kind of idea. And it taught me so many lessons.
Yeah.
So many.
Well, the 12 miles in the wrong direction is a little bit different from what Paulo was sending us in the wrong direction in Montana while we're on shrooms.
What happened?
We were coming down.
He's so confident.
We were coming down a hike, and then like we were all looking at our phones, like, which way do we go? Paulo's like, I got it, guys. I got it. And like we had taken a little bit of mushrooms, but like we were fine. Like we could read a freaking phone. Yeah. And then like Paulo's like, yeah, it's this way. So then we follow him, and they're like, he turns around, he's like, half a mile in, it's not this way.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going. He had so much confidence. We were like, absolutely, that's the way.
You sound right, bro.
That's so funny. Well, I mean, if you have confidence, then everyone's gonna believe you, even if you don't know what you're doing. In like anywhere in life, you just act confident and you act like you know what you're doing, and everyone else is just gonna believe you.
Yep. But isn't that how it works? Exactly.
That's exactly how it works. Kind of switching things up. How did you get into social media? Was it because of fitness?
That's so funny. Yeah, it was. This is when I wanted to be an athlete. So I think it was actually before the Reebok thing came up, because I'm gonna like around 10,000 whenever that Reebok thing happened. But I remember whenever I was coaching and I had the option to, I wanted to become like an athlete, and I was committed my life to training. I was coaching this class that I needed to promote online. So all these things started to happen. And then I was like, I'm going to switch my name from, I don't even remember what it was at the time, but it was nothing to do with Hannah Eden _fitness. It was something different for my personal account. And I switched it over to Hannah Eden _fitness. And I have a bunch of friends that are dudes, and everyone made fun of me. They're like, all right, Miss Hannah Eden Fitness. And it became this joke. And I was like, all right, I'm going to put blinders on. I'm going to shut all that noise out and just watch. Like, I'm going to see what I can do here. And so I'm a psycho when it comes to these things. I get obsessed with learning. I started learning and trying to understand what Instagram was all about. Started making like these timetables for every day of the week, have a plan for social media. Like Mondays are going to be Monday motivation. Tuesdays are going to be training tip Tuesdays, and like created structure and kind of wanted to understand what my personal brand wanted to be about. And it was kind of just a game then. And then I was like, man, this is really cool. And then I was like, whoa, all right, this shit actually works. And then it just became a tool to try and build my own personal brand, but also to reach as many people as I could, even in the local community at that time. But it helped a lot when it came to being an athlete too. I got some sponsorships. I started to understand if you put the effort in and it grows, then it actually really helps for other opportunities as well.
Was there ever a moment that you really like blew up, like a certain post or like a certain time when it just, your following grew like exponentially? Yeah.
My following grew massively after I did a full follow along program with bodybuilding.com. That was a pretty big deal. And around that same time, just working with them, I did Bodies of Work, which is don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's kind of like a group of photographers. It's LHGFX photography, and they pick athletes that they feature, usually Olympians or bikini or bodybuilding athletes, and they're naked, and they do these tasteful like nude shots to try and showcase the physique. And I was selected for that. And so when I had bright red hair, and it was the water year, so we did this crazy like naked photo shoot with a whole bunch of freaking baby oil. It was a very awkward situation. But that definitely helped my following, as you can imagine. But the Reebok contest is massive. And this was all kind of, well, Reebok came first, and then the bodybuilding thing came after that. But just being associated with different brands and keeping things pretty authentic too. Like I don't really mind about keeping shit real, you know. I'll be vulnerable.
That's the best way to be, is like be straight up, be real, like not hide things, because then people can resonate with you more.
Yeah, I think so.
The best way to be.
This podcast is brought to you by Gamesbox, the fittest subscription box. Gamesbox is a quarterly fitness subscription box that has apparel, supplements, and equipment created for the sport of fitness.
How has your message changed giving to your audience? How has that changed from when you first started to now?
Oh, wow. I think that when I first started, it's not really changed. I think the messages stayed the same, but my approach on things has kind of slowed down. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to achieve as much as I could, as far as like work flow goes. But the message that I put out, I think, used to be a bit too forced, and now it's just really authentic. So wherever I'm at in life is kind of where I will try and take my audience to as well, and not try and be who I was when I was with bodybuilding.com, or try and be the person that I was when I had freaking 10% body fat and could walk on a stage and probably win a competition and was the strongest of my game. You know, like they're seasons of my life, and they're kind of over, or now I'm just evolving. And I'm I'm the last person to deny that I got it all figured out, because I don't. I'm still trying to do all of that now, but I don't know, I'm just trying to keep it as real as it can be. So as my life changes, I guess my message changes too.
What advice do you have for people that are starting to get into their fitness journey and are just now seeing your page and seeing your message? What would you tell them?
This is really hard work. I think that people look at I should put my laptop on do not disturb. I think people look at what people have achieved as the result of years of hard work and then go, I want that. But majority of people wouldn't eat shit the way that I've eaten shit over the years. Even like just looking around now, like everything that we do things a little differently. We built our own island, meaning we have our clothing here, I source and do all of that stuff from the actual manufacturers, and we distribute here. We have our own app versus going onto a different app. Like a lot of that stuff, if it's trying to pursue a career in fitness, there's many different routes to go. So maybe working for other people is one way of doing less of the legwork, but getting to focus more on fitness. But fitness itself, if you want to make a career in it, is really difficult. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of giving yourself and sometimes not really getting anything else in return. So I think that at the end of the day, it would be really, really important to understand why you want to do it, and if it's to make sure that it's for the right reasons. Because if there's a reason that's important enough, then all of the other stuff that you have to do isn't as big of a deal. If it's just because you want to stay in shape and look good, doesn't really work like that. You know, you'd be lucky if you get time to work out if you're really trying to do what you can inside of running a fitness business.
Exactly. What made you want to start a fitness business, and like your apparel company, FYR? What made you want to start that?
Honestly, it was transferring this blueprint. Like I kind of built confidence and then was just really curious. Like I went to university and have a degree in photography. And through that, like I did really well, and I actually hated it, but I learned such a lesson through that, right? Which was like, I applied myself, I worked really hard, and I got best portfolio. I landed this dream job that I liked. And then I got there and I was like, ugh, like, I don't want to do this. I guess it was like the process of getting here that I really enjoyed, but not actually the end goal of what it was I was working towards. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to commit to being an athlete. This is before the back injury really was an issue. And I'm like, I'm going to commit a year. I want to change my diet, change my lifestyle. I don't want to drink. I want to get a nutritionist. I'm going to get a focus on my sleep, my recovery, X, Y, and Z. And I just want to see what I can do in a year. And I did that. And I actually did really well. I got really strong, really fit, was training like a savage. And then recognized like, oh, wow, like if I want to gain X amount of percentage on my snatch, then I need to do training for this much time, do 4 sets of 3. It was like this formula that I created. And then 9 times out of 10, I would reach the goal. And if I didn't, I'd just go back, try again, and then go again. So this whole analogy of like, what you put in is what you're going to get out. If you don't quit on it, you will get something out of it. And the only difference in failing or succeeding is quitting. I was like, oh, let's see what happens. And I had started coaching this class in someone else's gym and ended up falling out with the owner whenever I told him I wanted to branch off and get my own space. And he was really, really mean and wasn't good about it, and like put a price tag on all these members that I had worked so hard to kind of give him. Really, it was like an 80-20 rule. He got 80, I got 20%. And long story short, I had, due to a heated conversation, I came home and was like, Paolo, let's get figured out how we can open up our own gym. Like, fuck trying to build someone else's business. We've been doing the marketing. We've been getting the people here. We've been doing the programming. We've been doing all the stuff online. Like, the only difference is that he has this structure over us, which I was extremely grateful for, and this equipment, but we could figure that out. So we did. And then that was when Pump Fit, our first business, which was our gym, was born. And we grew and built this community of incredible people in Fort Lauderdale. I was 23 years old. Paolo was like 29. Like, we were so young. And through really so much hard work of being here at 4:30 in the morning and leaving at 10 o'clock and being the cleaner, being the marketer, being the counselor, and being the therapist, and being the coach, and being all these roles, like, we did really well. It was exhausting, but we did really well. And then with the gym, we're like, oh, let's start some clothing. So then we started a clothing line. And then whenever the gym was doing really well, I was like, all right, the community here in Fort Lauderdale is picking up on what we're teaching inside of this gym. So clearly it works. It's not just my mom telling me I'm doing a good job. Like, there's people here.
Yeah.
And online at that time, I had started to build Instagram and it was working. And I was like, man, okay, so now how can we create a way to get the programming that is here in Fort Lauderdale to the rest of these people that are watching me train on Instagram? So then this is back in 2016. And I'm like, all right, let's video every single exercise that we do. Let's put them on YouTube, put them into playlists, and do like body weight, banded, dumbbells, kettlebells. And then every day, the written programming that we've already programmed up here, let's write it and type it and put it on an email and charge people X amount per month and link all the exercises so that if they're not sure what the wording is, that they can recognize the exercise. So that's how our subscription was born. And that was just like an experiment, and it blew up. It did really well. I was like, holy shit, okay. And then 2017 came around, and this is when Megan came on, because it was just me up until that point. And then I had help, right? Where I was like, not having to manually insert people's credit cards and sending freaking MailChimp emails here to make sure that they got their programming that day, and all of this like paper legwork that I had to do. And she helped me massively. And we ended up being able to grow the subscription enough and the apparel line enough to branch out. And we started to create ebooks, which were a big ticket price. And we didn't have to sell so many because the subscription was a lower price. And then now we had a lot of more money to invest back into the business. I barely took a dime. And then we opened up and got our own film studio with equipment and offices. And then that's when we started to really launch. And then I launched the app, and then the apparel line kind of evolved. So it's just been nonstop work since 2015. And we're still moving and we're still shaking. So all of those things kind of just fell from one place to another, and they all just kind of created and made sense.
Yeah, that's amazing though, because you're just taking like one business and turning it into multiple. That's like a great way to do it without having to just take all the money. You're like, okay, how can I like create another business, and how can I branch out and make more rather than just happy with one thing.
And that's something that I guess is important to your question, is like, what would you tell people? Like, it depends if you're just trying to be a coach, right? Or if you're trying to build a business through fitness. Like, I didn't make money up until 2 years ago. You know, any dollar that I made, even when I made these massive checks from working for these companies, I put it straight back into the business, into camera equipment, into audio equipment. Like, my goal has never been to make money through fitness. My goal has been to do what I like to do and do what I want to do every day until I die. And that means I get to do the things that I do. Yeah, it's hard work, but it's on my terms, you know, and that's something that I just recently got a neck tat. So make sure that I tell the world that I'm not going to work for someone else. It's hard work, but you can keep working for yourself and you'll be all right, you know?
I think that's the goal for a lot of people, is to be able to work for themselves and to be able to, you know,
and not everyone is that person too, which is okay, but I don't think I'm a great employee. So I had to do something about that.
Exactly. Okay, so one of my last questions for you is, how do you deal with failure?
I love failure. And this is where I kind of like, I use this term ego death. Like I checked and killed the ego a while ago, because I think that failure only shows that you're trying, and you don't fail unless you try. And I think that I lean more into failure now than I ever have in my life, which means taking more risks, which means accepting that it's okay to fail. Like I don't look at it like it's a negative thing. I guess it's only a negative thing if you don't keep trying. And maybe all of the failure is a message that you shouldn't keep trying. In that case, then you need to listen to that one too and move on. But failing gives us a lot of information.
It is a lot of information, and it's helping you grow and learn. If you don't fail, you're not going to learn.
Exactly.
So I love that answer. That's great. So you've worked with Gamesbox before. How was your experience with us?
Awesome, man.
Because you're in this quarter's Gamesbox.
Yes, that's right. We had so much fun last time. We curated a box. It looked amazing. That was our first business venture together, Brian. And I'm excited to do this again. And it's so cool to see how Gamesbox has also evolved over the years, you know, going from month to month to quarterly, and the bigger box with more quality stuff, or more of an opportunity to fill it with bigger items. It's cool. Really cool.
Yeah, and it was great our first go around, because I actually got to go out to Miami and meet you guys and hang out with you guys, and we became good friends. So like, it's always good, like-minded people like that in the industry.
For sure. And we've had, that's very true. Our friendship began from that first Gamesbox. I remember that at Whatappalooza. Lorelai connected us. We grabbed coffee. Yeah. And then it was like,
we did party at Whatappalooza, but I think we met in New York at Kenny Santucci's thing.
Yes.
And
at Strong, right?
Yeah, Strong. And it was freaking freezing there. And we ran down the street to that coffee shop. Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, that was Strong. It wasn't Whatappalooza. It was High Rocks or whatever it was going on that day.
Yeah. And Strong New York was like throwing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That's so
good times, man.
It's great because you've been able to also be here and grow with us as well.
Yeah. And now we got to hang out too, Leah. We're going to have to make something happen.
I know. That'd be great. I would love that. Tell us a little bit about the sports bra that's in this quarters box.
I actually love this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, and the tank.
And the tank.
We have the tank.
Yes. The tank I love too, but I can't wear that for the guys. I could, but it's the male tank, right? But I'll start with the sports bra and then I'll go to that. But the Aspen bra is really cool. First of all, the color of it is dope. It's like this ice blue, baby blue color. But the bra itself is one of my favorites. So I always get a sample right before I decide to make the decision to order a massive amount of them. And I've had this sample for a while, and it's my go-to all the time because it's not your typical sports bra that finishes right underneath the boob. It's a little bit longer in the waist, so it could almost be a top as well. And I really like it. It's so soft. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to touch it.
Yes,
but it's like unusually soft.
The quality is great. It's really soft, and I'm like obsessed with the color. That's actually really similar to Pantone's color of the year for 2022.
Is it really? Well, would you look at that?
So that's like a funny coincidence, but I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. We actually tried really hard to color forecast as well. So I guess it worked.
Yeah, it did work. That was perfect.
Awesome. And then the tank top is really cool. Paolo did, this is the first cut and sew for the males, and we're trying to expand the men's line now. So Paolo put so much effort into literally changing things, making things shorter, longer, bigger, smaller. Like he put so much work into that while we were on the road, and it's really cool. It's also ridiculously soft. It's almost like it's athletic apparel, right? But it's so soft you could wear it out. Like it feels like a dress t-shirt kind of material. It's really cool. You can wear it both ways, so it's reversible, which is a massive feature that is really important to talk about as well. And it's not your typical tank top, it looks really cool. It's definitely different and unique.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. And both items of apparel are like super good quality and super soft. which is just like another plus. So it's like super comfy, things you can wear all the time, and it's not going to like be scratchy on your skin or anything like that.
Yeah. And I now have made this massive goal that the only apparel that we sell is the apparel that I'll wear, you know, so that I can wear FYR apparel every day. And that's changed over the years. Obviously, you know, you start somewhere and you evolve and you get better over time. But I put my hand on my heart and say that I think I feel confident comparing our apparel with the quality to like some of the top apparel, fitness apparel companies in the industry.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was so great having you. Why don't you tell all of our viewers where they can find you on social media and your brands?
Absolutely. So you can find me on social media. My Instagram handle is Hannah, HANNAH, Eden, EDEN _fitness. And my website is hannahedenfitness.com. And my app, which is where all the juicy stuff is the Hef training app for Hannah Eden Fitness on the App Store or Android.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of The Gainz. Join us weekly for new episodes and special guests. Make sure to head over to thegamesbox.com or Gamesbox on Instagram to get yourself a Gamesbox today.